So
it doesn't matter.
No, we're live. We're live. We're
Okay.
already up. So
it's coffee morning, Brett.
There you go.
Try to get my brain to work for you.
Better watch this weather, man.
What time's it coming in?
Probably about right around midday, and it'll be all the way into the night. So
when's the work? Do we know when the worst part is?
Yeah, it's going to be late afternoon.
Okay.
For us, and then it could go all the way into 1 or 2 in the morning. It could be that long of a stretch.
Man. But you're saying like 4 to 5 is the worst? I haven't even looked at it.
Yeah, let me look and see if I can pull up that map.
Hey, shoot me when messages come through.
Yeah.
Put them on the screen again.
Okay. All right.
I meant to tell you that a few weeks back. When I'm doing it with you, I can't see anything.
Gotcha. I forget that you're on the phone. I just thought that everybody sees them. Let me see. Need to find that map. All right, guys, anybody watching right now, we are about 3 minutes out from Saturday Sports Countdown getting going. All right, I got the map right here.
What does it show?
4 p.m. to 1 a.m. That's a long time.
Yes, it is.
It's moved up to a 5, dude.
I heard that yesterday.
Yep, out of a 5. Well, they're really expecting bad stuff. I hope it's not 2011 bad. Well, dang, North Carolina got ripped off last night, didn't they?
Just ignorant play.
Yeah, I know.
In the paint.
Yep, stupid. But then that lane violation, just
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
stepping in the lane. Just stupid.
They got down so much. It was. I'm about to.
So 3.5 point spread today.
Yep.
Okay. How about the Alabama-Florida game? About the same for Florida?
I'll pull it up. I've got some notes on that.
Okay.
3.5 for them, 4.5 for us.
This one that I've got, I don't know. I'm on CBS Sports. It's 3.5.
It's moved up to 4.5 now.
And how about Florida? Is Florida over Alabama?
3.5. Yep.
Yeah. That's about where I see it. And then I think if it's Florida and Auburn, it's going to be a push.
Right. I think so. I think he said he couldn't hear me, but I think because I had that thing up. So we're about to start. All right, here we go. 30 seconds. I have no idea why you can't hear me, Russ, when we're up.
I hear you good, Brett.
Yep, and I hear you too. Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air here on this Saturday morning. Give us a shout out there on social media if you hear us. We just went live on TV, I hope. Anyway, getting a picture, but making sure the audio is working this morning. I know it is on social media, but just give us a thumbs up if you do hear the audio. It's kind of important, right? I don't think any of you want to spend your Saturday morning trying to read mine and Randy's mouth on what we're saying. So, let us know on that. Randy, good to see you this morning. We'll be here with you till 9 o'clock on a precarious weather day. Just kind of letting everybody know that. I was looking at the way this weather's moving through, And for everybody in Nashville, about the time Auburn tips off with Tennessee, that weather is going to be getting into Nashville. So that's going to be a problem for a lot of people up there. And there's a lot of people there. This is a highly anticipated Final Four in the SEC tournament, maybe the most anticipated ever. So just be weather aware. And if you're on the road driving up there, I did that last year. We drove up early Sunday morning for the championship game, and it was beautiful then. So, but you're going to have a lot of weather issues even after the game if you're planning on coming home after today's game, either if you're an Auburn or Alabama fan, to just be very aware of the situation, because it is supposed to be pretty rough. I mean, you don't want to look, and here's what we'll get, and we're not a weather show, but I do want to say this. If it doesn't turn out to be as bad, you'll see people get on social media. Well, I see, I told you it wasn't going to be that bad. And these meteorologists, look, you'd rather err on the side of caution than try to chance it and then get caught in a mess. So you need to prepare, especially if you don't have a place to go if it gets real bad. You need to.
Well, I want to warn everybody out there. Brett acts like this is not a weather show, but I want to let everybody know that if Brett had to choose another field, this is no lie. He's kind of a weather buff, has been for a long time. Willing to tell anybody that wants to hear all about weather. And so you could have been James Spann, and you'd been a hell of a James Spann, Brett. You could have gotten people worked up.
I don't look good in suspenders.
Over a potential Category 5 storm, you could have really gotten their heart rate worked up, which is part of what you need to do, because I think you do say a mouthful there. I'm one that probably doesn't watch as much as I should, but I need to have somebody out there let me know, look, it may be 1 out of 10, but you don't want to be the one that one time you're not prepared for what could come. And we've had them close by us. I mean, what was it, a decade ago over in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, it was actually 2011. Can you believe that?
14 years ago. And then Beauregard was how long ago, Brett?
That was more recent. So, that was probably
that one too.
Yeah,
right here in our backyard. So, be prepared, be watching. But back to the Nashville, scary. Was that in Atlanta a few years ago when it was the SEC tournament going on, and they had the storm come through?
Oh yeah,
wasn't it a Georgia game that was going on?
Georgia ended up winning the tournament, and but yeah, they had to move the championship game to the to Georgia Tech's
that's right
facility because of the damage to the Georgia Dome. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? There's actually a tornado going on during the game. So yeah, I mean, it's a matter today of not if it's going to happen, it's where it's going to happen. And so it's kind of like throwing little darts at a map, and that's kind of the unpredictability of this kind of stuff. So the reason I do, of course, you're right, Rain. I grew up loving weather and took classes in college and all that, but outdoorsman, when you like to fish and all, you really have to pay attention to the weather, because you can get in a mess, man. There were a couple of guys. I don't know how this happened. Now I do know how it happens, because it can get on you fast. A couple of guys in Texas got caught in a tornado on a lake in a bass boat. 2 guys and their dog. And it's like, well, how the hell do you have a tornado come up you? I mean, literally the weather shifted that day. They were on a big lake and they got caught out there in it, and a tornado literally came out of nowhere and was on top of them. Now, again, they probably weren't paying attention like they should have to the situation around them, but it was they're lucky to be alive, because they've got GoPro footage of that incident, which is unbelievable. And if you haven't seen that, man, you need to go on Google or whatever. You need to just go Google that tornado in Texas, fishermen. It's the most unbelievable. It's terrifying, man. Terrifying. So everybody be aware. We'll talk more about that later on if anybody wants to throw a comment out there about that. But the SEC tournament, it's been a great tournament so far, man. And you're down to the top 4 teams, just phenomenal teams. I mean, this could be a Final Four in San Antonio. I mean, this is an unbelievable matchup. I mean, we'll talk about some of these stats for all these teams, but Randy, I mean, you look at this. Auburn and Florida are both 28-4. Tennessee's 26-6, and Alabama's 25-7. 4 of the top 6 teams in the KenPom rating will be in Nashville today in the Final Four. Every single team in the number 1 seed discussion for the NCAA tournament. How about that? So not only do you have 4 of the top 6 in the KenPom, all 4 of these could easily be, and I know a minimum of 2 will be a number 1 seed. Could possibly have 3.
Well, I think if Alabama or Tennessee wins this SEC tournament, you're going to have 3 because that's what they need to get in. Otherwise, they're going to be a 2, and
Right.
which makes this an Elite 8 matchup. And I don't know if you saw Todd Golden's reaction after the game yesterday, but I thought he said a mouthful, and I thought he was dead on. That was a very good Missouri team that they beat.
Outstanding Missouri team.
That Missouri team gets after you. They get a lot of transition buckets. They can hit threes in transition. They're long on the perimeter, Brett. I watched that Missouri game, and I know Florida got away from them there at the end, but I'm watching the way that Auburn's been playing as of late. I'm going, my gosh, I mean, that is a team right there that would give Auburn fits right now because they're going to score between 70 and 80 unless you defend the perimeter really well. And Auburn at least turned that up on the defensive end yesterday, but you're going to have to score with them, which makes that all Alabama and Florida matchup today, Brett. Maybe we'll start right there and then move over into Auburn since you and I talk a majority Auburn throughout the week. But I want to start with Florida, Brett. That's the best team my 2 eyes see right now. Can Auburn beat them? Absolutely.
Not the way they're playing right now.
Not the way they're playing right now, though. I think that Florida team, unless they just have some major issue, maybe an injury. They had it last year, and it really held them off. But to me, my 2 eyes tell me the way their guards are playing, Brett, and the way that their bigs know their role. You know, you look at, this is an unfortunate stat I'm going to give right here, but one of the worst stats for that Auburn game yesterday is the play of Dylan Cardwell. He didn't have a point or a rebound yesterday against a very small Ole Miss team. Now, that's a good Ole Miss team. If you told me that Ole Miss team made it to the Sweet 16, I'd believe it too, Brett. There's nothing wrong athletically and on the perimeter with that Ole Miss team. Are they up to the standard of these 4 teams left? No, but I think they're equal to Missouri. And I just said Missouri, I think, could be a Sweet 16 team. So I'm not knocking these teams that Auburn seem to be struggling with a little bit because I do think they're
good teams.
Top 20 teams in the country.
Teams.
So
But something's off. But I think something's off with Auburn right now. So I'll let you continue. We'll keep talking about that in a minute.
Well, it's the only thing that when I watch Florida, I go, that big right there knows his role. He's going to rebound the basketball. He needs to rebound it at an 8 to 10 rebounds per game clip. He may give you 2 or 4 points, but he's 7 foot. He's bulky, and that's what you need in this college game with the length. Kentucky last night, when you match up with them like Alabama did, you've got to know that they've got extreme length down in the post, and you've got to be physical. And Dylan's our main guy there. I mean, Janai no longer has, the legs and I think the ability from that injury standpoint to really play 2 or 3 feet above the rim. But he's going to give you everything you could ever ask for on the offensive end, and he's going to give you great physicality on the defensive end. He's just not an explosive player, maybe as much as he was earlier in the year, Brett. And that means Dylan Cardwell needs to serve that purpose. And right now, we're missing that. Chaney got back together a little bit yesterday, but not to the level that we need. We need one of those 2 guys. One of those 2 guys to get their game back to where they were at their peak this year. And at their peak, Chaney Johnson was a 14 to 16 point per game guy, and Dylan Cardwell was a 10 and 7 guy. And we haven't gotten that from those 2 the last couple of weeks.
Well, I'm worried. I'll just be honest with you. I know we got to get to our first break here, so I'll carry it over to the next segment. But yeah, I'm concerned. This team it kind of looks like it's in a fog. I mean, energy wise, just execution wise, just something's off. And I think you're right. I think majority of that comes from the inside game outside of Janai Broome being non-existent. I mean, Dylan Cardwell and Chaney Johnson really ain't done anything in the last 4 or 5 games. So you got to have somebody step up. I mean, you can't just have a couple of your guys that you've been relying on all year just go missing right here in March. If anything, you're trying to find somebody else to step up like Alabama did, bringing a guy in that hadn't played much at all. Now all of a sudden he's a force and he's adding to the mix. I just see if I see a trend, I see an Alabama and a Florida trending up, and I see an Auburn. And I don't know, Tennessee may be a neutral because they've kind of been that way all year, but I see them neutral and Auburn maybe trending down. But, Bruce Pearl said, well, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. It is. We did. But Alabama beat Kentucky 3 times, and they killed them, it seemed like, every time. So it didn't really affect them the 3rd time around. But anyway, that's splitting hairs. We'll go ahead and take our first break here on the show. Stay tuned. More to come right after this. Let me put myself on mute and call Russ.
Is he having issues still?
He ain't responded to anything I've said. So hold on.
Okay, you're good. TV show today, everybody. If you're just finding us, our podcast during the week, we stay up, we stay talking. We may give you 2 or 3 on-air commercials throughout, but this is a TV show here in the state of Alabama that we're feeding right now. Man.
Now, we're loud and clear on Facebook, YouTube. So I don't know. He's not answering the phone, so he might be in panic mode over there.
Okay.
I don't know.
He'll get Ryan. It'll be fixed.
Of course.
You asked what I've been doing with my life the last couple of days. For those of you that don't know, we bought out another sign business over here. It's actually in Opelika, but it's about a mile. It's not even a mile from the Auburn limit. It's on Opelika Road. It's about a mile from the office I'm sitting in right now. But
pretty much a well-oiled machine.
Well, it's full of equipment. But the problem in the sign business, I don't want to bore everybody, but the problem in the sign business is every machine has a little tweak that you've got to make to make it run correctly. And most of the time, there's only a person or 2 that knows how they've rigged that thing up to make it run correctly. And so most of my life, the last few weeks has been, and if anybody knows me, knows that I'm not the one that makes the tweak. There can't be a dumber human in Lee County than me when it comes to machinery. I'd have to meet them to believe it. I'm that ignorant when it comes to working machinery. And but it hasn't been running, Brett.
All right, we're back on TV, so I think Rhino probably got it fixed.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
We've had a whole lot of rhining going on around my office. Get the smartest person on the phone.
Always, man. Work smarter, not harder, right? We do have a T-shirt idea for everybody that wants a T-shirt. I got a couple T-shirt ideas, actually.
You see the Bruce Pearl T-shirt?
I sent you a text yesterday right after I said, oh, yeah, I mean, it could be that's one that we could print Auburn Blitz on the front and the quote on the back and sell a bunch of. All right, here we go, 5 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Yeah, you if you heard that, it's made its way all around social media. What Bruce Pearl said yesterday post game. He's a high energy guy, and he was all jacked up. You could tell. When Coach Pearl's jacked up, he's on there, and and it's all over, and you got papers flying everywhere, and all kind of stuff. And Janai's just kind of sitting there like this. And when he said what he said, that's the funniest part of the whole deal with me is Janai's sitting there and he's like, and he goes, he's like, did you just say that? And then it registered to everybody, and it's like, whoa, okay. So then of course, Bruce Pearl plays it off and says, look, hey, Disney's not writing my check. Auburn is. So I'm sure somebody will have a little bit of something to say about that. But they'll move on. And again, he was in locker room mode, and like if you've been around sports at all, like I'm not giving a pass on it. Yeah, it's crude, whatever, for all of you out there. But he in the locker rooms and around coaches, things are said, unfortunately, and it's not for the faint of heart. I'll just tell you that.
Here, let me say, I've seen a couple of rants in the last few weeks as Trump has won this election, and there are people that are moderate. There are people that are. I'm saying this in a positive direction. There are people that are moderate that are out there that have had thoughts over the last few years, and you're seeing them come out. And I don't know if you saw a few of the rants, but
I've seen them.
The feminization of the male population in this country is absolutely eye-opening, and there's been a few rants out there, and I'm not going to be the one to give the next one, but I mean, we've sissified this population to the point of no return. So when I see somebody get up there and give it like that, I'm cheering them on. Maybe you could use a different word, but I heard the exact same rant, and not that word by no means used, but I heard the exact same rant in a AAU youth basketball training session the night before, because kids have got to toughen up. And if you don't toughen up playing that sport, and you have sissy guys out there that don't like physical play, then it's going to catch up with you. And I think Bruce Pearl's a lot like Nick Saban in that when a mic gets in front of him,
right,
he knows who he's directing it to. He's not directing it to us, the fans, I don't believe. I don't think he's directing it to the people.
Everything's calculated, right?
I think he is directing that to Chad Baker-Mazar to tell him, look, I have got your back. There's nobody going to say anything negative about you that I'm going to allow without defending you. And I think that he is letting him know the way that you played in the first half yesterday is not the way I want you to play. Don't put your head down and be somebody different than you are. Right. Now, you and I may want him to put his head down and be somebody different, but the coach knows how to get the best out of their players. And I think that Bruce Pearl was making a statement there and going, look, man, what do you want me to do? You want me to apologize to somebody that's out there playing hard and playing tough, and he may do some things that we wish he would pull back, but it's part of what makes him who he is? I appreciate that. And I'm sure that somebody playing for a coach like that, if you've ever had a coach that defended you to the nth, you'll never forget that guy the rest of your life, because that guy probably made you do some things that others couldn't, because you knew that they'd run through a brick wall for you, and vice versa, you'd do the same for them. So when I watch Bruce Pearl do that as an Auburn fan, I'm like, man. And I know mine and your emotional state probably is very close to that most of the time. I would have died 14 different times if I would have chosen coaching.
Oh man, I wouldn't be here.
Oh, I'd be deader than a doornail if I would have chose coaching as a profession. You know me very well, Brett. There's no way I could have lived through 25 years with how high strung I am, competing as competitive as I am day in and day out. I'd die. 10 heart attacks.
Did you see the Zoom? I don't know if you saw it or not, or caught it. There was a moment right there when Chad Baker fouled and got his third foul, I think, in the second half, and things weren't going good for Auburn yesterday. And that the look on Bruce Pearl's face, and I'll kind of segue into that. He's got a look of concern, man. It's like everything we're trying to do is not working, and you can look in somebody's face, and when you can genuinely tell if they're really concerned about something. That look, I almost screenshot it and sent it to y'all and said, look, this is the look of a guy that is worried this thing's about to fall apart. I mean, it's not the same Auburn team that we've seen majority of the year. He knows what's in the back of most people's minds, that Auburn gets to this point every year and they seem to fizzle out. Not necessarily in the SEC tournament, but when it comes time to March, I mean, Auburn for the NCAA tournament in March, he's been out of the first round 4 out of the 5 times he's made it since he's been in Auburn. And so, and we've had some really good basketball teams, you know, a la that Jabari Smith, Walker Kessler team that got beat in the second round by Miami and got beat pretty bad. So we've had some bad performances. One to Clemson, got killed. You know, that Miami performance. The year we went to the Final Four, we beat New Mexico State by 1 point in the first round. They had a shot in the corner on the way to win it. If it goes in, we don't make it past the first round that year. So I think all of that, he's looking at how the team is playing, and then all that's probably rushing through the back of his mind, because we've said this a million times, and I know we got to get to break. We can keep this discussion going on line and through to the next segment for TV, but you're remembered for what you do in March. And, you know, frankly, Auburn's resume hasn't been real good in March the last several years, even though they've had some phenomenal teams, some of the best teams we've ever seen. So let's get to break. We'll come back, and I'll let you give your thoughts on that on the other side. All right. So stay tuned, everybody. More to come here on the Saturday Sports Countdown.
I think I think he's gonna get it fixed, though.
I sure hope so.
I really
sure
do.
hope so.
I mean,
we'll see today. I want to see how we play. Like, I get it. We come off a week yesterday of not playing, and it's kind of not been the best week. And, you know, Ole Miss was scrappy. I get all that. But we'll see today, because Tennessee will be turned up in there. And, you know, we've had their number in there the last several years. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be a war. And then Florida and Alabama is going to be a dang war. And so whoever survives that, you know, they got to play another war tomorrow. So
I agree. I agree with you. I think we're better than Tennessee, though.
I do too.
That's the reason I agree with you, is that if we all think that we are, you got to go prove it. And I'm hopeful that we will. Now, tomorrow, I don't know how much better we are than Florida and Alabama.
We're not, I don't think. I don't think we are.
I think we're as good as both of them. I believe that. Not positive if we play at our best, that our best is as good as Florida's best. But really good from us, and average for them, we beat them. So, and those games are out there. That's what Auburn had yesterday. Auburn just very lucky yesterday. Janai and Denver came to play. I mean,
no doubt.
You take him two off the court.
Oh, God. Get completely annihilated. Like, the positive I'm seeing, and I'll say it on TV too, is Janai. The last two performances looks like the old Janai.
Yeah.
34 and 24. Yeah, you get that version of him moving forward. And then we'll talk about National Player of the Year too, because I think he's
got it won.
He better. He
does. He's got it won. I mean, it helped that Cooper Flag went out and didn't have a chance to go and score 32 and 14, which he could have very easily done.
I agree.
So, but look, the timing's perfect, and he's going to win it. And
he has another really good performance here today, man.
Yeah, and he's going to get it. He had 16 and 12 against them, if you remember, coming off the bench after the injury. I mean, if you take him out of that game, what did Auburn win in that one? 53-51?
I'd have to go back and look. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's the least amount of points we've scored. That's our second least. Well, that's the most or the least amount of points we've scored in a game this year. And then outside of yesterday. Yesterday was our second.
Yeah, 53-51.
Yeah, that was a rock fight. Good God.
Ziegler had 14 and 6 in that game, and Janai actually had 16 and 14. Hurt.
Yeah, I know it.
If you remember it, we were on our text thread. You and I were
going to play or not. So
if he doesn't come out and play, we don't win that game.
Absolutely.
We got to get more in the post.
Yeah, he's it right now. We don't have anything. Dylan's not an option, man. I hate it. I love his.
And he was earlier in the year.
5 seconds.
Kinda. I mean, he was great earlier in the year.
I know it.
Make sure we hit back on Alabama real good.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Look, if you're looking for a place to go watch the game in Alexander City, go check out JR Sports Bar and Grill. They'll have all the TVs on, great food. You know, it's all served for you right there. So you don't have to worry about anything. Go in there and hang out with your friends or your family, watch the game. And I'll give a shameless plug too here on this show for some friends of ours in Auburn at Bunkers. If you want to go find a place in Auburn to watch the game today, go to Bunkers. They're sponsors of our Auburn Blitz show and our podcast in the mornings. Really appreciate Alan and KJ and Wes and all those guys down there. Bunkers is a phenomenal place. Randy, you and I have been in there several times, and the atmosphere is unbelievable. The setup is awesome. So it's set up perfectly for March Madness. That's the place you want to go camp out for March Madness, is right there at Bunkers.
Well, just plenty of room, in two different venues. You got plenty of room to park. Got 50 parking spots underneath,
Right.
the back entrance level. And so that makes it ease. And in downtown Auburn, that's something I think about everywhere that I go. Where am I going to park? I mean, it's gotten congested and grown up so much. But then when you get inside, there's plenty of room to move around and not feel like you're right on top of one another. So it's a wonderful venue, and we're very proud and blessed to have both of those two great businesses, JR Sports Bar and Grill and Bunkers, as part of all of our programming.
No doubt about it. Dive back into, we were carrying over the Auburn talk, and we'll bounce over and talk Alabama too here in a minute with Florida. But, the lack of being able to, like you said, get production out of the interior outside of Johni Broome. If I have a positive, I said it online just then during the break. If I do have a positive I'm carrying, it's that we're getting the old version of Johni Broome back, the player of the year. And you seem to think he's probably got that locked up. I agree with you. I'm going to say he should have it locked up. Now, the media and everybody that votes, they do some bizarre things sometimes. And I know Cooper Flagg still got a lot of people out there that are saying that he deserves it. But Randy, I kind of gave my case a couple of days ago with you on the podcast when I ran off Duke's resume versus Auburn's, and you see what Johni Broome's done versus look, it's not taking anything away from Cooper Flagg, and he can't help who his opponents are, and he can't help the way they've played this year. But I said it, if you flipped them and you put Cooper Flagg on Auburn and put Johni Broome on Duke, they're going to still be the same. But I'd say Cooper Flagg probably would deserve the player of the year at that time because he's played a much tougher road and had a harder road to get where he's gotten, and he's been able to put those numbers up. So it's not a shot. Both of them are outstanding. Both of them probably deserve player of the year. But if I'm looking at the resume, Johni Broome wins.
No, I'd be shocked at this point if Johni didn't win. And here's my reason for it. First off, I think he deserves it. I agree with you on that. But I think the most important thing is timing. So if Johni went out before the SEC tournament or in the first couple of minutes of the SEC tournament, and Auburn went on and played pretty well and had a chance to win it without Johni as part of it, and he missed out on all of those eyeballs being on him to win, Brett, I think that it would cost him. If vice versa, Cooper Flagg averaged 25 and 15 during that stretch and took Duke to even the ACC championship or the championship game. And so that's what Johni's got going for him. And he's already winning most of the other awards that are coming out. And I do think it's deserved. And I think part of it, I think it's deserved just based off of performance this year, but I've also think that it's deserved based off the lifetime of what he's done in college basketball.
Right.
And for those college basketball fans that don't take that into consideration, and those writers that don't, they're what's going to really hurt this game. Because you do like to see someone progress and get better and maybe not be the guy that is the Cooper Flagg. Who's the number one pick in the draft?
Sure.
Anybody that watches that kid play, they've known that since he was 13 or 14 years old. He's exceptional. And to come in and prove it the way that he has after all of that hoopla is LeBron James-esque. For those of you that don't like LeBron James, you can't have an argument that guy came from the top player at 14 years old. And he's been the top player, and
I love that LeBron James version. I don't like this LeBron James version.
But this LeBron James version on the court's amazing. It's unbelievable that you're going 28, 8, and 8 at 41. Is that how old he is?
Yeah,
I'm the biggest Michael Jordan fan and I don't want to get off on this rant.
Yeah.
We can if you want to. But 28, 8-8 at 41 years old, playing the way that he is, Brett, that's asinine. Michael Jordan wasn't playing that way. Nowhere near that level at that age, Brett. Not even close. I mean, when he came back, he was nowhere near the player that he was when he left the Bulls after that run with those 3 championships. He was a 22, 23 point per game guy, a 4 rebound, 4 assist guy. This guy's getting 28, 8-8 still, and he's 3 or 4 years older than Michael was during that stretch. So my point on Cooper Flagg, though, is Cooper Flagg, as much hoopla as he's had, is going to have to play that way when he gets in the NBA. But he has played that way at Duke, so I tip my hat to him. But I think Janai's got this thing won.
Yeah, Glenn said, have we seen where they're offering Flagg $50 million to stay at Duke next year? $50 million? I don't know about that, Glenn. I may be wrong. That's the first I've seen it. If they pay somebody $50 million to stay at a college, I quit. I look.
They may offer him to stay there for 50. If you told me there was a 50 million number out there for him to stay the next 2 or 3 years, because that's how much money he's worth in the NBA.
Well, there's no doubt about it. But I'm just saying, look, we got a whole nother thing. UNLV can't even pay Dan Mullen to coach, okay, after they signed him. I mean, we are living in a clown show when it comes to college athletics. Like, so I get it. Like, I hear all this, and I don't want to go down this path today, but I mean, at some point in time, absurdity has hit a completely and totally new level in what we're dealing with in this world. So I know, what is anybody worth? Like you've said, the Nick Saban thing and all. I understand all that, but do you have a treasury where you can just go print money? That's kind of why our country's kind of gone to hell. And the reason everybody is in dire straits and, things just continue to spiral downhill is because, everybody said, oh, we'll just go print some more. Oh, that ain't no matter. You ain't got to manage that. Just go ahead and build up some more debt. I mean, to the point UNLV signed a guy that they can't pay. They had to go back and say, hey, man, I know I signed you to a 5-year contract, but I can only pay you for 1. What is going on, man? Like, that is so unbelievably egregious as far as incompetent. I can't even begin to describe that. I mean, you got guys that are being paid to manage an athletic department and a president of a university that agreed and a board of trustees that says, yeah, we can go pay this coach this amount of money when you really didn't have the money. I don't know what world we're living in. I know we got to get to break. We'll talk about it on the other side, but this is crazy. This is crazy stuff. So I know Cooper Flagg's awesome, but is he $50 million in college, man? I mean, there's a reason the NBA is the NBA, and there's a reason that the NFL is the NFL. This ain't the NBA, and this ain't, for lack of better terms in my slang language this morning, this ain't the NFL. So, all right, we'll go to break. Stay tuned. More to come right after this. It's unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable.
I figured it'd take a crazy number like that, though.
Well, it would. I mean, absolutely. But
because what are these quarterbacks getting? And the basketball is worth more. The quarterbacks are getting about $8 million. The great ones, 6 to 8 to play college football. Is that what the offer is out of high school right now?
I don't know what I can't even remember how to say his name. It's not Iamaleava, but
that's right.
At Tennessee, but I don't ever know. I never saw a firm number that he got paid that. Now, he may have, but all of this goes back to a conversation we had months ago. Like, we hear all this stuff, and I don't really know what somebody gets paid and how it's structured. Like, we hear that Jackson Arnold got paid 2.5, right, at Auburn. I don't know. I don't know if he got paid 2.5. Then I've heard it was 1.5, and then I heard it was 2.5 and some other things that went with it. And then you're like, well, what did Deuce Knight get paid? I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody really knows what somebody is getting.
I think that you have firsthand knowledge to know that some players that are good players but not the best players on the team are getting really good money, Brett.
They're getting great money. Oh, they're getting great money.
I think that, and it's a real number that came out of Wichita State for the basketball, and wasn't it all of the basketball players who were on scholarship at Wichita State they were getting right around $400,000 a year,
something around there.
I think it was like 360 something. So, and I think that's a real number. I definitely think so. What
did that encompass? Those what my question is. They're getting a package of 360. I'm not sure it's all cash.
Sure,
I think it's probably like, remember we had somebody come in and tell us don't pay it. It may have been Jason. A lot of times these schools are building in, like you say, 500,000. They're including their scholarship, their meal plan, their room and board, and all that into that number to go, and then whatever compensation, cash wise, money wise, gets added in. Still a hell of a package. I'm not diminishing it. Somebody give my son 500,000 to go to school. I'm clicking my heels. I'm like,
I think those are real numbers.
Yeah, I do too. That is real numbers. So, Glenn said Flags NIL now is 5.5. And again, NIL was designed, and I'll bring that up here in just a minute when we come back from break. I think we're back now. So, since everything's kind of off TV, Russ, you're gonna have to help me a little bit more on that. All right, let's come back in 5 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. NIL, Randy, was designed to allow a student athlete to go sign a contract with a third party and make money off name, image, and likeness. Okay, that's, if you want a definition of what that is, there it is. Now, that's not what it is anymore. It never really was in college sports. It's how much are we going to say NIL's worth that the college is going to pay you. So that's basically what's going on. And so I don't know if, from that standpoint, how much that Flag's getting from somebody else and how much that's coming from directly from Duke. And you and I talked about that too. We never did figure out, nor have we ever had anybody on this show ever give us an explanation of how the collective worked versus how the university tied in. Now with the taxes and all, and the collectives are under assault now because they know that there's a lot of things going on. So there's possibly going to be some legislation to maybe separate from that. I don't know what's all going to end up happening. All I know is there's a lot of money getting thrown around, and pretty much it's being funneled through the college.
Well, that's exactly the way that we heard it several years ago when I couldn't get my head around it, from one of the key guys that I think was the brainchild of what went on at Alabama, and brilliant businessman, a Donald Trump figure, and in the area that you and I grew up in, as far as just a brilliant guy that if he's in the room, he's the elephant in the room. And I think he was highly involved in that and explained that how many times to me and you, Brett. And I couldn't, when he told, and when the guy that was putting it together said it, I couldn't get my head around it. But that's what it's become. They have found the gray area legally to be able to pay out these salaries. And so you can say the $50 million may come from different areas, but the beauty of the collective is you can go to Cooper Flagg and say, we're committing to you $50 million over the next 3 years if you'll commit to us. We've got to go out and find the money to offset that through the collective.
Exactly right.
We aren't putting that on you to go out there and find that money. We're going to go out there and find that money. And that's where the legal jargon is hard for me to get my head around, but that's what it's become. And I don't necessarily like it, but it is what it is.
And I know this is apples to oranges, but this is kind of where we were going with this. UNLV's AD comes out and says we are unable to pay for final 3 seasons of Dan Mullen's contract. He hasn't even coached yet. This was reported by Sports Illustrated first. AD Eric Harper says athletic department's nearly $31 million in debt. but hopes to raise the money through donations and increase revenue from football games. I mean,
Colorado did the same thing, didn't they? Weren't they in debt when they went out and got Deion?
Probably,
and they got Deion committed into.
I don't know that Dan Mullen's going to bring to UNLV what Deion brought to Colorado. Though.
He will not. Now he may bring them a much better football team. I'm not saying that I don't. I think Dan Mullen's a good football coach.
Yeah.
He's not going to fill in the stands the way that Deion did based off.
He's not going to market like him either.
Heck no.
So, I mean, let's look at it from a business standpoint that Colorado's probably going, yeah, that's what we need to get out of debt. We need a dynamic person to come in here and put spotlight on us no matter our results. See, here's the thing. People are talking about Colorado. You don't even really know about their results, right? Could you tell me what their record was this year? I don't know what it is. I don't know what it was the year before. They were pretty bad. But everybody was like, well, Deion, and he's selling sunglasses, and he's wearing a cowboy hat, and game days out there, and there's people all over the place, and he's got
Heisman Trophy winner.
Right, Heisman Trophy, got people coming in. So they're made money off of this deal, whether you want to call it a publicity stunt or whatever. And Dan Mullen is not going to bring that to a program that's $31 million in debt. He's a good coach, Randy. But he doesn't have that marketing prowess that Deion Sanders, not many do. First of all, not many do anyway. But Dan Mullen's not going to help UNLV get out of debt. Now, his job's to put a good product on the field, which will in turn increase attendance and some things like that. But that's not going to be enough to get them out of debt. So they're sitting there rolling the dice on somebody coming out there and going out and and UNLV's in a unique spot, man. They're in Las Vegas, where a lot of people don't really give a rat's rear end about college athletics. I'm just going to be honest about it. I mean, the reason UNLV basketball was great is because Jerry Tarkanian was out there. I loved the Running Rebels back then. They played that outlawish style of basketball. I loved it when they beat the hell out of Duke 103-73 that year. I enjoyed every second of that game. I remember they went on a 33-6 run in that game, sent Dan Hurley to the bathroom. He was so messed up in that game. He had gone and almost pooped his britches. So he had gone to the locker room. But anyway, that was UNLV had to rise up to the level of the star power of Las Vegas. Nobody talks about. Now they got the Raiders out there, and they've got the Knights, the NHL team. UNLV gets lost, so everybody's wanting to put money in places. And I know Vegas has got a bunch of money, but they're not lining up at the door to sponsor UNLV athletics.
I'll say this about college sports, though, in general, though, Brett. You almost have to take a risk like that if you're over an athletic department that's dying. What else do you do?
I don't know that you do anything else. You're right.
I mean, you just keep going and hiring some mediocre coach and hope and pray that you catch lightning in a bottle. I mean, what's the odds of that happening? I don't think the odds are very high at all. So, I mean, it's just a little bit different dynamic when you come over to an Auburn where we're trying to find the right piece to take this football program to the next level. But we're in a rabid fan base area where you really can go and talk the money out of the pockets of the donors around here. But I agree with you. There's way too many other options over there in that market to throw your money at it if sports is, your passion. And so I don't see it working, but I don't know what you do. If I put myself in the shoes of their athletic director, I take the risk. What do I have to lose?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I mean, that's one way to look at it, because if you think that the ship is sinking and you're down to no other options, I mean, I do applaud them for going out and getting a coach like Dan Mullen, but it took a contract like this to get him there. And they pretty much went in there and said, look, we ain't got the money to do this, but we're going to go on and sign him. And he can at least coach for 1 year. And hopefully in the meantime, we can get some guys out here and we can raise some money and try to get this thing going in the right direction. And if it fails, it probably collapses all the way out at that point. But I think that's what, as we're about to go to our next break, Randy, I think you're going to start to see some of these schools collapse financially. They can't compete with some of the top end schools. They're trying to do that, but they don't have the income or the revenue stream to do it. And they're taking chances like that, hoping that it would work out. Again, Colorado took a chance and it worked because it was Deion Sanders. He's an outlier, man. There ain't another one of him out there. So you either have a athletic department like you see with Auburn and Alabama and Florida and Tennessee and Georgia and those and Ohio State that have, you know, a very secure backing with a conference like the SEC and the success and the deals that are cut with the TVs and stuff like that. Plus you have huge donation bases that come in and donate money to your cause, or you're a UNLV type where you're out there trying to stay up, keep your head above water. And man, it's just going to get tougher and tougher. And if Mississippi State and, you know, some of those teams in the SEC weren't in this conference, man,
Agree.
They'd be in the same boat.
Totally
Same boat. So
I think what's going to happen, I know we got to go to a break, but you're going to have to pick the sports that you want to be competitive in.
That's it.
But if you're in the SEC, you got to try to be competitive in all, or they're going to kick you out of the conference.
Well, that's what they said.
Yeah, you're in a tough predicament in the SEC, but the rest of you don't necessarily have to play football. It may be more beneficial for you to get out of football and throw all of your resources at one or two sports, and I think that's what we'll start seeing, Brett.
I think you're right. I agree 100%. All right, we're going to take another break here on the Saturday Sports Countdown. A lot more to come right after this. Yep, that's a legit topic for these programs, man. Include table tennis, Glenn said. All right, John said lots of money being thrown around, and John Q. Public still gets the shaft, paying more and more and more and more for everything from sport events to everything that goes to. You're right, John. You're exactly right, man. He said he read that the Tennessee QB was at $8 million.
That's the same number we've heard.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you know, look, we say this all the time, and obviously money talks. But if people keep buying tickets and keep paying the prices, it's not going to change. And the only way you change it is when people just go, okay, I've literally hit a ceiling. I'm maxed out. I can't do this anymore. I had some people, Auburn and Alabama fans, talk about getting letters this year about, well, your section, we're about to increase the money. You know, you've been in these seats for 28 years. And, you know, if you want that same seat, they've restructured the.
Hell, they do it every year.
I know it, but they really
go up every year.
I know it, but it's just going.
Riders Unlimited goes up every year.
But John's right. John's right.
I'm one of those that every time I strike a check for my season tickets, do I love it that much? But at the end of the day, I make the decision to do it.
You do.
And I don't know what the limit is for me on that. I don't know what the limit is for the average fan, which I am. I mean, I'm not one giving $100,000 a year donation to that university. I'm not, but I am one that buys as many basketball tickets as I can get my hand on. You can't get your hands on any anymore.
No.
And none of them are cheap. Even the ones that you can get your hands on aren't cheap anymore. And then same with the other sports. So I think I'm right there in the middle, right there with you, Brett. I don't know what that number is that runs us away.
You just you'll figure it out when you go, I just can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's different for different people, but people just go, I ain't gonna do that anymore. And then I guess they'll rely on corporations to buy it all up. And if that's the case, so be it. I mean, that's who's buying all the tickets off StubHub and all Auburn basketball. I mean, if you sell your tickets StubHub, it's probably some type of private firm or something that's buying it. So, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Final segment here in hour number one. Get your comments in. We got a lot of them rolling in, and we'll hit those as we go. Obviously, today is going to be a big day in Nashville. You got Alabama and Florida that will take on or will play right after Auburn and Tennessee at noon. So there is going to be some really bad weather in Nashville, just like it's going to be here. So, I looked at the map and it looked like about the time Auburn and Tennessee to get started, that weather will be moving into Nashville, and it's probably going to stay a while. So if you're traveling to and from today, you better be very aware of what's going on. And I think like the epicenter's in Birmingham, Randy, like the heart of all of this is like in that corridor, which is very close to us, right around in Alex City when you kind of drew a line down the middle of the state. So it's bad everywhere. There's not a segment of the state today that you can say, oh, we're not in harm's way, and that's something to be mindful for. We just say that because we know there's a lot of Auburn and Alabama fans that watch the show and that are probably heading up to Nashville right now, maybe, and are up there watching. I know Wade's up there and several other people that we know. Randy, just be aware of your surroundings and what's going on up there. But this is going to be a great two basketball games. We talked about it earlier in the show, and we'll carry this conversation in. We haven't even had a chance to dive into the details of this game yet because we kind of gone down a rabbit hole on a couple other things this morning. But these are like a Final Four. This is a Final Four matchup I keep saying Las Vegas, in Nashville. That could potentially be four teams if they were all spread out on different sides of the bracket. I wouldn't be shocked to see all four of them in San Antonio. Seriously.
No, I wouldn't either. If they didn't end up having to play each other,
right,
in the championship game to make it to the Final Four. That's how good I think all of these teams are. And when's the last time that you've had the Final Four teams in the SEC be four of the top six teams in the rankings going into that ball game? I mean, do you think that's ever happened? Probably never.
I don't think so. Not in this conference history.
And the SEC is going to, if Lenardi and the others that are making the talking heads when it comes to who's going to make the bracket, 14 out of 16 teams, the way that Texas played here in this tournament, have a potential of making it in to the tournament. I think that they're all, if you played any of them, now we could show up that first weekend and 8 out of the 14 lose. But if you told me any of them made the Sweet 16, I'd go, I can see it. If you told me Texas made the Sweet 16 playing the way that I just saw them play, I'd say, I get it. Yeah, I can see that. If you told me that Ole Miss team, which is physically a really good-looking basketball team.
They are.
If you told me they made the Sweet 16, of course, you and I could get it. And that Kentucky team last night, but I think that tells you the difference between these four teams and the others. You wanted the matchups that we're getting today, and they were able to get through and give you that matchup. And so that tells you that I think the separation, though, even to say that those other 10 teams that round out that 14 that have a chance of making the tournament could all be Sweet 16 teams. The four that are at the top of that, if they don't make the Sweet 16, it would be a very disappointing season or an end to the season for all four of our teams. And I think that's, speaking of mouthful, we'll start with Alabama and Florida, Brett. I think they're playing the two best basketball in the country right now. I mean, Alabama just wins by 30 against a really good Kentucky team last night. And Alabama's scoring the ball at will. Alabama had the team enough to come into Neville Arena. If you told me that earlier in the season that Alabama was going to be good enough to come to Auburn and win, I'd said, you're crazy. Now, I mean, we may go over there and lose, but there's no way they're coming to Auburn and beating us. But they did. We had a chance to win. They had a chance to win. That was a 50-50 game. Sears hit a shot, Janai didn't. But tells you they're good enough to be in it to that level. So I think the two best teams that are playing right now are Florida and Alabama, and it tells you how big a shot that was for Auburn to win that SEC regular season championship with that Tennessee
Right.
shot going down to knock off Alabama that day. That was massive to keep us from having to play one of these two teams in the semifinals, Brett.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, and you look at the last matchup between Alabama and Florida just a few weeks ago, back on March the 5th. Florida wins the game 99-94. That was a situation where, they went into Coleman Coliseum and they were able to beat Alabama at their game. And that's scoring a lot of points. Now, Alabama, this is what you saw last year with Alabama hitting their stride and Grant Nelson playing better, and then getting some guys to kind of step up their game that maybe haven't. I mean, LeBaron Philon's playing the best basketball he's played all year right now. So they're going to be a problem. They're hard to defend. They love to score in the 90s. If you can keep them out of the 90s, you got a chance to beat them. There's no doubt about it. And the thing that I've watched, they shot the ball poorly yesterday from outside in the first half. In the second half, they found their range. They were still up 6-7 in the first half on Kentucky and hadn't made a three-pointer. I mean, but what they didn't do last night was turn the ball over. And that's a huge deal. I think they scored 16 points in the first half off Kentucky turnovers. And that's been their problem all year. They've been so lackluster on taking care of the basketball, and they don't defend well at all. I mean, we've seen that up close and personal when we played them. Kentucky ain't defended anybody all year, so they play poor defense, and they're careless with the ball. That's why they get beat a lot of times against good teams.
Injuries have hurt them more than they've hurt the rest of us.
True.
We've all had our moments where we've had players out, but
they've been devastated.
Kentucky's lost two of the best players in the conference. And one of them being a guard. So
that hurts you especially with turnovers.
Those are big time losses. But back to a couple of the points that we made. How much time we got, Brett?
We've got about a minute. Right here.
Back to a couple of points we made though. When Alabama's playing that 4 and 5 out offense and they're getting shots up in 10 seconds, Auburn's done a pretty good job. I mean, Alabama got to the 90s against Auburn at Neville Arena, but it took overtime to get them there. I mean, if you can hold Alabama in the high 70s and mid 80s, that's about as good as you're going to do, getting up as many shots as they do. But my point on the 4 out and 5 out offense that they run is if you let them get that little staggered screen up top and get downhill basketball on you, and then penetration like Mark Sears does and kicking it back out on the wings, and 3-point shots are floating from everywhere based off of that dribble drive that they're able to pull off. And, I think the X factor is LeBaron Philon. He had 21 last night, Brett, and it's really hard to keep him from getting where he wants to go. His length is a problem. He's got a little bit. He's a better athletic version.
Colin Sexton,
CBM to me.
Yeah, they compared him to Colin Sexton last night, which I thought
think he's as good an athlete as Colin Sexton, but I think that he's a longer athlete than Colin Sexton. But I think he's a more physical version of CBM to me. When he wants to, and Miles Kelly, when he wants to go downhill, Brett, he can get the ball to the bucket and score it. I don't think he's a great shooter. He's nowhere near the shooter that Miles Kelly is. But, man, he is a problem. He was a problem at Auburn, and he was dang sure a problem against Kentucky. They had no answer for him.
Yep. Yeah, good points. All right, we're at the top of the hour here, so everybody stay tuned. 1 hour left here on the Saturday Sports Countdown right after this. Yep.
We need our two guys to play to his level.
Unfortunately, we're going in the other direction.
They're
trending up. They're trending up.
Those two guys I brought up though for Auburn have had their moments. I mean,
I think today, and I'm going to say this, I think today is going to tell you the version of Auburn that we're going to see moving forward. And I'm just telling you, I've seen 3 games now. I saw a lackluster performance against A&M, which I kind of gave a pass to because of the circumstances. I saw a hard-fought loss in overtime at home to Alabama. And then we saw that yesterday, and we scrapped it out. We figured it out, but I'm just seeing some guys that have been missing for too long. And so we're either going to get this thing back on track today and look like a team that can make a run in March, or you're going to see a team that possibly could get knocked out in the second game of the tournament. I think whoever we play in the first round, we're going to be so much better than them this year. Obviously, as a number one seed, that whoever your opponent is, you're probably going to have 5 players with the flu to lose that game. But in the round 2, you're going to play an 8 or 9 seed, and it's probably going to be some kind of scrappy team like a UConn or something like that. And if you play like crap against them, you're going to go out. And that's what we did when we played Miami that year. We had the better team, but they wore our ass out. And that's kind of the feel I'm getting here. A team that is people. We'll see that to me today will determine just in effort. May not win the game, but effort-wise and energy-wise, I didn't see a team that had very much energy yesterday, top to bottom, save a couple of guys. Save Denver Jones and save Janai Broome. Everybody else was kind of just floating around out there. And so, we'll see. I'm trying to purposely be hard a little bit right here because inside of me, yeah, I know what Auburn is and what they've done, but I don't see it right now. So I got to see them return to their old form that got them to where they are right now. That's my little rant for the day.
Keep ranting, Brett.
I just hate it, man, because it seems like Alabama timing always they always are hitting a peak right now. And we seem to always be on the tail end. In Florida right now, they've gotten better over the last 4 to 5 weeks. So we got about 30 seconds. Kentucky looks like a real good team with injuries and still figuring out a new coaching system. That's a good point. All right, here we go. Welcome back, everyone. Hour number 2 here of the Saturday Sports Countdown, presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. We'll take your comments. Some of them are rolling in. Michael said we had some of the worst passes I've seen all year, just lazy. That's my point. It's kind of what I was just saying here online during the break for everybody on TV. I just right now, just the energy level is not there for this Auburn team. I don't know why. And I thought they played with a good energy at home against Alabama. They lost the game in overtime, but the energy level was not there against Texas A&M, and it definitely wasn't there last night or yesterday afternoon against Ole Miss. We were just better than them, had a chance to kind of impose our will inside with Janai Broome, and it ended up working out. So I got to see a little bit better energy level from this Auburn team today. Tennessee's going to bring it, man, in there. We've had their number in that building. I think they're sick of it. We beat them in a rock fight game earlier in the year, 53-51. They want to beat Auburn, and they know that this could kind of maybe help them a little bit, maybe get a number 1 seed over Florida or Alabama. And all 3 of those teams are still trying to get a number 1 seed. So, we can keep saying all this about Auburn. Well, it doesn't. We've got it locked up and all that, and we do. But that's over with now. We're in March, man. You need to start playing with a little urgency. There is no tomorrow when you lose in March.
Well, I'd like to see us get the, if the brackets turn out like they're supposed to, and I've been saying this a few weeks, but I'd like to see us, if we get the number 1 overall seed, that we actually play the number 8 overall seed in the regional final to head on to the Final Four. And I think that's big. The difference between the 5th and the 8th ranked team may be playing Tennessee in that regional final, because right now, for me, Tennessee's the 5th best team in the country. And then getting the other, because the only other 2 that I'm more scared of outside of those 4, maybe they're the 6th best team in the country. I'm more scared to play Tennessee than Houston is the reason that I put them as the 5th best team. I think Duke's in there with the rest of us,
Right.
but I think that Tennessee team, and we've seen Houston earlier in the year, is just a more. I mean, it's hard to say that anybody plays defense better than Houston the way that they do, Brett. But I think that from an offensive standpoint, when Tennessee's hitting, they're a better offensive team than Houston. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Tennessee, Rick Barnes, this is what you get with them. They are not an offensive juggernaut by any stretch, but they're going to defend you and push you around and knock you around worse than anybody in the country. And so you kind of know what you're getting with them. They force you to play their style of basketball. You can't really run away with them. You can't get on runs against Tennessee and feel like you're ever comfortable. Ed said, agree, Brett, but one more point. We will only go as far as how physical we are allowed to be by officiating. Alabama versus Kentucky was officiating to play a lot more physical than our game. Being physical helps. So there's no question. And, today will be a very, I guess, word I'm looking for, a game that a lot of people are going to kind of pay attention to as far as, again, this is not going to be you can't carry this game into the NCAA tournament because you're going to get officiating crews from other places, and they may call a lot closer games than what we get in the SEC a lot of times.
Yeah,
I mean, most of the time it's a physical, beat you up type of style, and we have teams in the SEC struggle with trying to adapt to that. When you've done it for 18, 19, 20 straight games, and then you have to go in the NCAA tournament, and then you got an officiating crew from the Big 12, and they call every little ticky-tack touch, then it affects your mentality and how you approach the game. So, yeah, I mean, today they may just let them punch each other in the face. I mean, you may get a straight 12-round boxing match between Tennessee and Auburn, but in a week, both of those teams may have to adapt to an officiating crew that if you touch somebody on the fingernail, they may call a foul. So it's an adaptation. You got to figure it out.
I've been saying this. So getting that potential overall number 8 seed, if you can close this thing out, Auburn make it to the championship game. I think that if Auburn makes it to the championship game, they've got a good enough argument to be the number 1 overall seed, get that South bracket, and hopefully get number 8. But here's 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Let's just give you a rundown of who those teams are currently. But 6 is St. John's. Would you take that matchup to go to the Final Four? I can tell you I would. I'd take it all day.
Yep.
They're the number 6 team in the country. 7's Michigan State. You watch Michigan State much this year?
I have. Yeah, I have.
I've watched them 3 or 4 times. And they're a Tom Izzo type of team, but I like our chances. Every time I watch them, I go, give me.
Aren't they going to be a 2 seed? Yeah, I mean, they'll be a 2 seed.
There should be a difference, though. If you're the 4th overall number 1 seed, you should be playing the 5th best team in the country to go to the Final Four.
Right?
Am I wrong? I mean, if the seedings work out that way, and I know they base it off matchups and how those matchups will play out money-wise. I get it. But my point is I think it's really important for Auburn if we can get that 1 overall, because then they got Tennessee at 8. I don't think Tennessee's going to stay there. I think Tennessee's going to be the 5th or 6th overall seed. Texas Tech's the 9th ranked team. You seen them play this year?
I haven't seen much of Texas Tech.
I've watched them once. Love that matchup for Auburn. Don't think from an offensive standpoint they match us well at all. And Clemson's the 10th best team in the country, and that's coming out of a terrible ACC season they have.
Yeah.
So, I don't want us to have to see Tennessee in the regional final. Whatever keeps us from seeing someone, or Alabama in the regional final. Keep me away from them in the regional final.
Right.
And I hope the ones that put the brackets together realize that Auburn and Alabama have already played 3 times this year, and Tennessee and Auburn's already played a couple of times. Give everybody else a different matchup, and let the SEC, if they deserved it this year, send 3 or 4 teams to the Final Four. And I know we're not going to get that. I'm wishful thinking, Brett, but that's that's where we are in the season.
Well, the
though.
conference deserves to be spread out because they've been the best conference, and all of them deserve, a path to try to get there.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
the point. I'm trying to make is whatever Auburn needs to do the next 2 games to get the easiest path to get to the Final Four is what we all want.
Yep. You're right. John, you're right. That Miami team was a good bit older than Auburn that year, but now it's flipped around. Now Auburn's that team, and like the San Diego State team that made it to the Final Four a few years ago. That was the year that they knocked Alabama out. Was it the Elite Eight? They knocked them out, or was it Sweet 16? One of the two. I
think it was Elite Eight.
So one of those. Yep, I think it was Elite Eight. So, all right, we're up against another break. Everybody, stay tuned. More to come right after this. All right,
Maryland's
John.
you got Maryland's the 11th ranked team. Iowa State's been odd. They scared me to death earlier in the year, but they've lost 8 basketball.
They just got beat again. They got knocked out by was it BYU that beat them?
Yeah, so something's missing there.
All right, so you want to know who the tournament teams in the Big East are?
Yeah,
John.
St. John's.
St. John's, obviously. Creighton, UConn, Marquette, Xavier. I think they probably make it in, don't they? 13-7, 21-11.
Yeah, they're right there on the edge.
I think that's 5 there, and Villanova is kind of the line to me. They're 19-14, 11-9. They might squeak in. Everybody else is terrible. So Georgetown, Butler, Providence, DePaul, and Seton Hall are all out. But, I mean, definitely 4, St. John's, Creighton, UConn, and Marquette. And then maybe Xavier and Villanova can have a case there. So that's the Big East. Yep. Teams there, of course. I mean, the Big East always plays great basketball, and you definitely have to watch out for all of those teams, man. I mean, top to bottom. I mean, we've seen Providence and Seton Hall, and all those teams have great programs in the past, and
definitely Creighton.
Absolutely, Butler. So, all good programs for sure. Some other games on tap today. Wisconsin will play Michigan State in the Big Ten semifinal. The other semifinal will be Michigan and Maryland. So you got Trey Donaldson, who has been playing outstanding this year, by the way, for Michigan. He is a phenomenal player. I love Trey at Auburn. Louisville will take on Duke. I don't think you'll see Cooper Flagg anymore in this tournament. So, look, Louisville can beat Duke without Cooper Flagg. 100%. We'll see how that kind of plays out. That's another thing I want to talk about when we come back here in a minute, is you could clearly see without Cooper Flagg, if North Carolina just weren't so bad this year, I mean, they match up against anybody without that guy, man. They could go out early. Seriously. They can be bumped by anybody from second round on.
You think Hubert Davis holds on to his job?
I don't.
That thing's missing something.
They've kind of hit a little run here, but it just still looked – man, they were getting killed last night. I mean, I turned it off.
I did too.
And then y'all started texting, and I was like, well, good Lord, what's happening? And then I found out they lose the way they lost. I mean, they just – yeah, you're right. Something's off, man. It's not – we got 10 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Let's talk about this Duke resume a little bit. We talked about it on the podcast a couple of days ago. Randy, this is my point. And then last night, the North Carolina Duke game, that was a golden opportunity for North Carolina without Cooper Flagg, and got down big. You and I turned it off and find out that they came back and, had a chance to really win the game. But really, to me, it's not really even about North Carolina. It's about Duke. And we've seen Janai Broome be out this year with Auburn, and Auburn's fought through it and won games. If you take Cooper Flagg off this team, man, it showed last night they get brought way back to the pack without him. And if Con Knipple doesn't do what he does, then they're probably out. And so they cannot have, and Duke is nowhere near the same team. And this was brought up on the podcast yesterday morning. I don't know if you saw this or not, but should, and I know the committee won't because they're number one seed. But if that injury had been bad enough for him not to be able to move forward with Duke, does that impact where they should be seated? Because they're not the same team without him. I know Florida State a few years ago in football, the committee said, you ain't getting in because your quarterback went down. Remember that?
Yeah.
Florida State pitched a fit, and they're like, well, we got screwed, and this is a body of work. But it was the truth, and then Georgia hammered them. And I know they had a lot of guys opt out and stuff, but seriously, what's the difference? If Cooper Flagg were to go down, I hate it for the team. The body of work says yes, but they wouldn't have that body of work without him. So they are not a number one seed without Cooper Flagg. Seriously. Because they played a mediocre – Randy, they've only played 4 ranked teams all year. All year. I mean, Auburn and Alabama played 4 ranked teams in the last 2 weeks.
They're a lot like Kentucky when you're missing 2 of your best players. I mean, if you took 2 of Auburn's best players off of the roster right now, would we be a lot more concerned than where we are? Of course we were. And look, Duke's missing Malik Brown too.
They miss him, absolutely.
And that cat he's Denver. I mean, he reminds me a lot of Denver Jones. If you take Denver Jones off of Auburn's team yesterday,
nowhere near. Yeah, we lose.
I mean, so yes, Cooper Flagg's a massive loss, the same as Janai Broome would be for us, but you also got to take into consideration that Malik Brown loss. And so do they come back? And when they do come back, are they at full force? We'll see. Janai, when he came back against Tennessee, goes for 16 and 14.
But he wasn't nowhere near full force.
But he was good. If you can get 16 and 14, it's good enough to win basketball games.
It just tells you how good he is.
Yeah, and Cooper Flagg's going to have to play up to that standard, even if he's not at 100%. If he can be at 80%, like Janai was probably at 60% that day, his 60% was better than anything else we could throw in there. And so we'll see. I don't think he's out for the duration. I think he'll be back for the NCAA tournament, just watching the way the conversations are going on. But he's a little bit more of a slashing, do everything, athletic, NBA style player than Janai is. So
absolutely. Style of game is going to be different.
Him not having the athleticism that he holds at full force is a lot different than Janai. Janai he's crafty enough to still go get his even when he's not. And I hope he's getting back close to 100%. I mean, if the last 2 games hold any bearing on where Janai is, he's getting real close.
Absolutely. Looking back at Duke, 0% of their games in conference play were played against a ranked opponent. 24% of Auburn's. I don't have Alabama's. It'll be the same amount because, according to Carl Ravich's math, we're 500 conference. We ended the conference season. I know that's earth-shattering news for all of you out there, but 24% of our conference games were played against ranked opponents. If you look at the ACC right now, they've got 3 teams that are ranked. The SEC has 8 and could have 9. We've had up to 9 because Vanderbilt's been ranked. Mm-hmm. And we can go on down the list, but that's why I say it's a no-brainer, because if you look at Cooper Flagg's numbers and you look at Janai Broome's numbers, they're great. Both of them are very deserving of Player of the Year. But when you look at what the road that Janai Broome had to go down versus the road that Cooper Flagg went down, it's not close, Randy. It's like 2 paths in the woods. One's covered in briars and the other one's been plowed and there's no obstacles, and you get to go down the path with no obstacles, and I've got to walk down the path with all the briars in it. And if we come to the same ending with the same results, then the person that had to walk through the briars ought to get the benefit of the doubt because you didn't have the challenge on the other side. So that's kind of That to me is why, if it's equal, you look at the resume and you look at what's been done. And again, Cooper Flagg cannot help his opponents, cannot help who's on the schedule. Most of the time in the normal basketball world, it's the ACC with the strong schedule and the SEC with the not so strong schedule. But it's not the case this year.
It's not. But I will say what I said a little bit earlier. I think Alabama and Florida, and I'm going somewhere with this. I think Alabama and Florida are playing the two best brands of basketball heading into the tournament. And so I'll bring this up to you. I'll ask, how shocked would you be outside of Alabama, Florida, and Auburn needs to show us something today. But how shocked would you be if Alabama and Florida didn't make the Final Four?
I'd be surprised.
Like, how bad would they have to play against a St. John's, or go down that list, Clemson or Texas Tech or Michigan? How much better on an average day are they than 6 through 10? My answer is they're 20 points better.
Well, the thing about the tournament that's so crazy, and you know this as well as I do, you can show up one day and not be playing good. And it doesn't have anything to do with, you're clearly a better team. I mean, obviously with Alabama, Florida, and Auburn, they're ranked up there for a reason. That means everybody feels like they're the best teams in the country. So they're better than all those teams according to a ranking. Doesn't mean that somebody can't show up and play better or hit everything, like Oakland beating Kentucky last year. That guy, man, he could have walked outside the arena and shot it and gone through a window like the old Larry Bird and Michael Jordan commercial with McDonald's and made it. Bounced the thing off the floor, it would have gone in. I mean, he was falling into the bench and everything. Kentucky was in his face. He was still making shots. That's the crazy thing about this tournament, man. You can be the best team and somebody go do something stupid like that and they can knock you out. I mean, I go back to that Kentucky team that year that went 30-0. And they went to the Final Four and they got beat by Wisconsin in the semifinals. Wisconsin wasn't even close to as good as them. Now, Wisconsin was in the Final Four, but when you looked at those teams comparable, they weren't anywhere close, and they beat them. So that's the thing that scares you about basketball. In football, generally, the better team wins, because it's blocking. It's a lot of different things. In basketball, man, somebody can ride a hot hand and they can shoot your eyeballs out, and he ain't scored nothing all year, and he scores 24 on you in that particular game, and they beat you. So that's the wild thing about basketball. It's the thing that scares you to death about basketball.
Well, but I've been saying all year, the SEC needs to win a national championship this year. That's how good this conference is. And if you have a less than 80% version of Cooper Flagg and Malik Brown for Duke, I don't look and see who's good enough to beat.
You better go grab
all
it.
Of us.
You better go get it.
Well, somebody's going to have to. I hope it's us that goes and gets it. And I dang sure don't want to see Alabama be the one to go get it. But even with that being said, I'd like to see the SEC have that to go back and say that, because right now we have to fight the viewpoint that the SEC can't get over the hump and win a championship. And right now they haven't been able to in way too long. And this year's the best opportunity we've had in a long time to get over the hump.
No doubt. All right, up against another break for TV. Stay tuned. More to come right after this. Yep. I mean, at some point in time, you got to put up or shut up. For sure. Yeah, that Florida-Alabama game today is going to be wild.
That's a national championship game right now.
Right. Hey, I am drinking out of my.
You got your Florida.
Not because I'm a Florida fan, guys. Not because I'm a Florida fan. I am today, by the way, John. I'm sorry. Yeah, that was my last trip to the swamp. That's cut from my trip to the swamp. So. But Duke beat Kentucky. I mean, lost to Kentucky. At that time, Kentucky was number 19. They lost to Kansas, who was number 1 at that time. Good Lord. Talk about somebody that fell off and disappeared. That team, good God. Arizona They beat Arizona, number 17. They beat us. We were number 2. We just won the Maui Invitational, come back and had to go up there to, tip your hat. Cameron Indoors, who Auburn kind of modeled their arena after. They took that approach. They went, okay, you don't have to necessarily have 18,000. We're going to build a smaller place and get everybody right on top of the floor. And now the demand to get in that place is about like the demand to get in Cameron Indoor. You can't get in. So,
amen on that.
So it's the same mentality. So Auburn kind of modeled itself after Duke on that as far as a facility. No, I'm not a closet Gator fan, John. I just drink out of my Florida cup every once in a while. Still orange and blue, though, not the right kind. Yeah, I've never seen this. I can answer the question about has there ever been a Final Four in Nashville like this, and the answer is no, because the SEC ain't ever had this many good teams at one time. Not to this level.
I agree.
Not to this level of good. 24. I think St. John's can make a deep run depending on their matchups and the fact that they are led by Rick Pitino. No doubt. It is a matter of a draw too in the NCAA tournament. Who do you draw out? So we got 20 seconds. Yeah, me and Barry McKnight are Tiger Gator fans. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. I want to say a big thank you to both of them. JR's Sports Bar and Grill. We do our Lake Martin Sports Roundup show up there every day. Every week on Wednesdays. We filmed that show. I had Ricky Pulliam with me, Randy, this past week, and had Malcolm Simmons up there. We've been having some really good guests lately. Had John Mask and a young man from Land Bell, the winningest wrestler in Tallahassee history. He's gone 2 consecutive years undefeated. And so had both of them up there. Looking forward to having Coach Johnson and some of the new coaching staff up there next week. And then that following week, and just kind of giving everybody a schedule, hopefully have Coach Chad McKelvey from Dayville up there after he really turned things around the latter part of the year for them on football. So we had Chad Keeson up there a few weeks ago to talk some basketball for Horseshoe Bend. We've had a really good lineup of people coming up. Hopefully have Nick Hand come with us soon to talk about youth sports here in the city. Tune that show in. But my point is, JR's is our home. It's been our home forever, and we really appreciate them. And the food's always been outstanding, the atmosphere. And our good friend Kevin Kill at Sunshine Heating and Air, man, longtime supporter of our programming, and you and I have been a long time supporter of his business, because when my heating and air stuff goes out, he's the guy. So he's got a great technician in Cliff that works for him. So glad to be partnered with those 2 great businesses and all of the other partners that we have here on our Sports Blitz programming, Randy.
You know, one thing I'd like to pitch in there is we try to cover high school sports here in the state as much as anyone. If you've got individuals, teams, coaches, administrators that we need to be spotlighting more than we are, find us on our AHSA radio network outlets. We give away multiple, upwards of 15 sponsors that we have for Players of the Week throughout the state of Alabama. And if you would like to nominate somebody, reach out to us. Let us know who they are. Local newspapers still are hanging on out there, and thank the Lord that they are, to provide the coverage that they do. Statewide newspapers are almost non-existent out there. So we don't get as much information as probably once did. So it's important that we keep growing what we're doing there. And it's important to me and Brett that high school sports continue to thrive here in the state of Alabama. And so we're working really hard at that, but we need your help out there. So pass that along. We make a lot of posts around that, Brett.
Absolutely.
But I get a lot of recommendations, and I say this all the time. I've yet to get a recommendation where I look down at it and said, "Did you really send that to me? I mean, do you really think that that's worthy?" Every time I get one, I'm like, "Why do I not know this already?"
Right.
But I don't. So send us over. Let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods.
Also, a little bit of a preview. We'll be headed to Chelsea. We're trying to, I think we've got it confirmed, but head to Chelsea this week for our On the Road show. So me and Faith and Maddie will head over there. Our good friend Michael Stallings, Randy, I think he has his Chelsea Hornets at #1 in the state in 6A baseball. So we'll be going over, and I look forward to catching up with Michael. He's a good friend of both of ours, and he's done a hell of a job at Chelsea, man, as the AD and the baseball coach and what they've been able to build over there. And they've just got things going in the right direction there. And he's a tremendous leader. Proud of him. Grew up with him over in my grandmother's neighborhood. And we got a lot of stories that we could tell that we won't tell on there. But I'm proud of him. So I'm looking forward to heading over to Chelsea and covering them this week.
Well, they got an unbelievable pitching staff, his son being one of them. And outside of them bumping up to 7A, which makes it extremely tough when you're right there on the border of any, we know that as well as anybody growing up and living in Elliott City, because we're always on that border. And if you can be the top enrollment of your class like Chelsea is right now in Class 6A, it really helps. But the product they put out there is second to none. They're in the mix every year, at least have been for a decade plus now.
Absolutely.
And they weren't before Michael Stallings. So they're there now. And he's an outstanding leader. He's got the perfect demeanor for it. He had the perfect demeanor to be somebody you wanted to play with, Brett. I mean, he just carried himself the right way and competed the right way as a player, and was one of the best that we've ever had come through our high school. I can make an argument that there's been no better pitchers for the long term as Michael Stallings was. So I'm proud for him too, and I'm proud for to watch so many people from our area that have moved to Chelsea. I mean, that is like
a lot of people have moved.
That is Elliott City North.
It is
for us from where we are, and so many of the people that I know were great athletes growing up, and their kids are going through that program and having a lot of success. So that's good to see.
One thing about Michael, like you said his demeanor. He was a guy that you wanted to play with. Back in the day, a little neighborhood story. Michael was always the mediator, because there'd be some roughhousing going on, and there'd be some tempers flare, as you can imagine, when we'd be out there playing. And some of us didn't handle things quite as well as others. He'd be the one to step in and kind of smooth everything over. He's like, y'all don't do that. He was the even kill guy. So and he's kind of carried that all the way into what he does now. He does have a great demeanor when he played, and then now the way he coaches, he's a guy you want to play for sure. So,
well, if there's storylines also, Brett, Faith, and the whole crew that are on the road with the HSA that's brought to you by Drive Safe Alabama and the ALDOT, if you've got storylines that we haven't hit on, send them our way. I mean, we know the Chelseas.
Absolutely.
We know the Spring Gardens. We know the Auburns. we know some of the storylines that are going on here in the state. But if there are ones that you think we need to hit that we haven't, send them our way. It's the same as what we just said. I mean, we can only go off of what we get information on.
You're right.
So if there's some that you think we need to be touching on a little bit more than we have, then that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, to close out this segment with that, my trip to Spring Garden's been one of my favorite. Now, I couldn't find it on a map. If you told me to head towards Spring Garden without a GPS, I wouldn't be able to find it. And it's not a cut on them, but it's a little quaint community, and that's a stretch, okay? Saying it's a little quaint community. You kind of top the hill, and there's the school, and then you walk in the gym and you see a well-oiled machine, and that's the stories that are fun. And then there's nowhere to eat in Spring Garden, Alabama. Coach Austin said, "Hey man, you can go down there to the general store," and I'm like, I appreciate it, Coach. I don't think that's what we're looking for. And so, but I mean, went down to the general store and the guy was nice and was able to talk to him, but headed into Piedmont and had a great lunch there because we try to highlight a local place there. But Ace told me, she said, well, you can sleep on the general store if you want. She said, that's where she gets her biscuit every morning. I said, well, whatever you're doing is working. So those biscuits must have magic in them because she's such a great player.
Have you seen one better, Brett?
I haven't. No, and personality wise, man, that was one of the more enjoyable sit downs. She and I, we meshed really well in conversation. You could tell she's been raised right, and we had a good time cutting up and shooting the basketball. And again, I think I've told this, and I know we got to get to break, but I said I need you to get out there with your dad, and y'all act like you're coaching and playing. And she's like, well, what do you want me to do? I said, do what you do all the time, Ace, and make shots. So she went out there and she hit like 7 threes in a row. She looked at me. She said, is that good enough? I said, I think I got enough footage now. I think you're good to go. But I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's just like second nature. And when you see a player like her, you take that in because they don't come around very often. So, all right, let's get to break. Stay tuned. More to come right after this. That's the cool thing about going to all these schools, and man, they're excited to see you when you show up, and they know about the show now, and they kind of looking, they kind of spread the word when we pull up, like, hey man, they're on the HSA's here, and we're kind of profiling our schools, so even the bigger schools.
Hey, how good's Chelsea softball team? Because they're normally great.
I haven't looked at their softball team.
That'd be worth checking.
Yeah,
I mean, haven't they won
they're
state championships?
They're pretty doggone good. I need to pull up the poll.
Well, and I wonder if the basketball run being as long as it did may have. You don't know. I mean, what do I know? But you would think that 3 or 4 of those basketball players probably are key players on the softball team.
They are.
You shocked Coach Harris got let go, Brett?
Maybe a little bit. Why is it so hard to find these rankings, man? Yeah, ain't no question about that text. I had somebody send that to me the other day. I was like, man, I'll be on the front row every single game. It don't make a rip what happens. I don't know where these rankings are, man. It's like, why does 2022 ASWA rankings pop up when you Google it? I mean, wouldn't you think that the most recent would pull up? So it's a little deceptive out there right now. You look outside and it's beautiful. I mean, the weather couldn't be any prettier right now.
Does it say what time?
I mean, it's probably coming into the state right now on the west side. We'll have the map up. See how much time we got. About 25 seconds. Boy, Nashville's going to get it right at game time. All the way through the game. It's not going to be on it over here toward the end of the day. So, here we go. 5 seconds. Welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. A couple other notes here to talk about. We had somebody text us about the women's basketball position at Auburn. Auburn parts ways with Johnny Harris. We talked about it on the Auburn Auburn Blitz podcast a couple of times. One of the things, Randy, is that John Cohen knows Johnny Harris, and he was with her at Mississippi State, and now he's with her over here. Had great things to say about her, but and I know that she kind of had it going in the right direction. Had a couple of good wins last year. Beat that LSU team at Auburn, which was good. Went to the NCAA tournament, got bounced in the first round, but had some injuries this year. But really, outside of Deanna Gaston, didn't have anybody that contributed whatsoever. And I know it's a young team. Thought she was recruiting well, but I say this all the time: if it's inevitable, it must be done immediately. There's no sense to wait. And if John Cohen thought that the basketball program wasn't heading in the direction that the athletic department wanted it to head, then you go ahead and part ways and move on. So
it's very hard decisions to make. I mean, it's impossible for my mind to not go to football as I talk about Coach Harris with basketball. I did feel like there was some movement to recruit to a level that could get Auburn, maybe not all the way to where you see South Carolina and LSU and maybe a few other teams in the conference yearly, but a much better position than what we're in currently. But to me, there has to be a year where you go, okay, we get to year 3 or 4, you still playing sub 500. And I'm still looking out there with the roster, and I still got question marks. Makes my mind go to football this year. It's with Hugh Freeze. I mean, you can make all the excuses in the world for somebody for a couple of years, but you get to year 3, year 4, and you keep looking out there, and there's still some ailments that you don't see getting fixed, then you've got – and look, I don't know when that decision needs to be made. That's not the reason that I chose a different profession. So I don't wish that I was in John Cohen's shoes by no means. Really difficult, Brett, to make a decision on when the time is right for you to go. But you've got to see the daily progress of the program, and you got to see the daily work that's put in. And I'm not questioning work ethic. I don't know her from Adam's house rat, but I do look down at the record, and the record's not good enough.
Well, and it's not. And like you said, I think what we see is the results on the floor and the in-game stuff and maybe the recruiting. We don't see the day-to-day operations and maybe other things. So that's where the decision comes in. And, again, I've said this, again, a million times. I'll say it a million more. If you feel like it is going to eventually happen, then go ahead and pull the trigger. If it's inevitable, it must be immediate. And I think that's kind of what John Cohen saw. He thought giving – this program one more year under Johnny Harris was probably going to render the same results. And I think that's what you have to look at. And he had positive things to say about Coach Harris. And she came over here from a Mississippi State program that was rolling at the time. She was a major part of why Mississippi State was doing what they were doing. But the program, like you said, Randy, just wasn't rendering the results. And I think this step back was a little bit more of a step back than the administration wanted to see. So we'll see. Don't really know. There's some names being floated around out there right now, but we'll dive more into that a little bit later on. We'll have that on the Auburn Blitz podcast during the week. This week, John wants to know where Spring Garden is. Spring Garden is a little bit north of Piedmont, Alabama. So it is a blip on the radar, but they got a hell of a basketball program up there. Ricky Austin with over 1,000 career wins, got that 1,000th win this year. Coached all 3 of his kids. He coached the boys, when his 2 sons came through, and then he coached Ace, who was his last. So, yeah, it's going to be a little bit different for him moving forward now that he's not coaching one of his own, and, it'll probably the gym will feel empty for him not seeing Ace out there playing anymore. But that's life. She'll move on and play at Alabama, and she's going to be a really good player for them, I expect. And she just brings a tremendous work ethic to the table, and she's not going to be outworked. She's gonna do the things that she needs to do to make sure she gets on the floor and is a contributor for Alabama.
Well, she can shoot. She can shoot the cover off the ball. I mean, when you stereotype somebody that you want to point your kids in the direction of, watch the way she shoots the basketball, watch the rotation, watch everything about it. That's how well she shoots it, and she can do everything. But back to one quick point when it comes to that, though. They're a program up there, and you can add a few more: Lauderdale County, Cold Springs, some others around the state where you go, that's just what they do.
That is what they do.
When they're in the second grade, they're playing travel basketball, and they're out competing every weekend with their friends, and they grow up together. And the gym that I'm in Auburn with my son so much, Aubrey Reese runs that, and Aubrey was blown away because he went up to the state championship games the day that you were calling those, Brett. And Spring Garden was the one that he came back, and he went and found their AAU photo when they were in like the second or third grade, with Ace standing in the middle back and all those other players that you saw.
Oh yeah.
And these just young little girls that are out there playing. And his point was, if you wonder why programs get to the level that one has with Ricky Austin and others, it's because the communities have embraced it.
They have.
And they know what it takes to get to that level of play. And there's some around the state that I had no clue about when you and I first started doing this almost 20 years ago. But now I try to go around the state and say, look, you do realize that your community is not doing it up to the standard that others are.
No question.
Realize that there's a reason that you're not getting to the level that some others are. And there's a few of them that are standouts, and Spring Garden and Piedmont and some of the sports that they're great, and some others around the state are ones that you would point to. And hey, Montgomery Academy too. There's one thing about that Montgomery Academy program, Brett, and how great they were. I mean, that was a 3A program that was as good as any 6A school in the state. They could play with some 7A schools, but I'm not going to say they're as good as Hoover, because that's the best basketball team I've ever seen. But
good Lord,
I'll take a Montgomery Academy and Hoover. Most of the travel basketball tournaments you're involved in are at Hoover, in that facility. They're constantly playing and competing against each other. And Montgomery Academy is just built by a bunch of guys that play nonstop year-round basketball to go along with a few other sports. And I called that championship game, Brett. Did you have a chance to watch them play?
I did not, unfortunately.
Holy moly, man! Oh,
just really good. I know.
Really.
I was keeping up. Yeah, I was keeping up with it, but I didn't get a chance to see them in person. So
we're not there every day. So there's teams. Right. See, I didn't get to see Spring Garden. I didn't get to call a Spring Garden.
Right.
I didn't get to see one of their games, but you get a little bit more immersed in it when you call them, because you got to learn a little bit of the history of why they're there and what's going on with it. And so those were a couple of them that really were standouts to me. But have you seen a better high school basketball team than Hoover?
I have not. Let's get to break, and I'm going to keep going with this. But no, the answer to that question is absolutely not.
Me neither. Not even close.
All right, final segment coming up right after this.
And hey, Brett, did you see the stats in the Alabama-Mississippi game?
Oh, God, I did.
For those two players,
that was
they're both on the same high school team, man.
It's stupid, man.
One of them had 32, and the other one had 27.
Yeah, Dwayne Brown is stupid. I mean,
London too.
Salim London, but Dwayne Brown is Tennessee getting a good one there. UAB's obviously getting a good one with Salim London. She plays guard, John.
He's point guard.
Yep. Sponsors in meaning what, John? I mean, they got good support systems, 100%, no doubt.
Who's got a good support system?
He's like, I expect the teams y'all are talking about have strong sponsors as well. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, like there's travel sports teams black, white, pink, and purple all around the state of Alabama that just make it a priority to put a good product out there. So
Right.
I'm not going to stereotype why they do it. I'm just telling you, they do it. You take the community you and I grew up in. They don't do it to that level. Girls basketball, we got one of the best coaches, and I think he's about to be one of the best coaches in the state. And I bet he'll create something like
Oh,
that.
yeah, he will.
But my lifetime, girls basketball has never meant anything to anybody in Ellick City.
And he was
outside of a couple of little stretches. So I think the point Aubrey was making was like, you either look around and see what others are doing and try to not come up with an excuse on why you can or can't, or just keep not winning.
Yeah.
Championships.
John's saying local business sponsors.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't either.
I mean, some of those teams can be supported by local business sponsors, but I think most of them are individual.
Self-sufficient. Yep.
Yeah. And a lot of them are, travel organizations so there's 2 or 3 over in the Hoover market. One of them's the name of the group's Hoop Squad. I mean, they've been around for 20 years. I mean, and you got to try out for that.
Right.
Another one that won the state championship in my son's bracket this past year is in Montgomery, called Team Driven. It's a boys and girls club lead that is the head coach. And it was the best coach team in my son's division last year, and I was coaching in it. He was so much better than me, it wasn't close. The reason I ran out of coaching, because I knew I wasn't going to beat him. Couldn't out-coach him. And I asked him how many times. Here's how important that sport is to some of these.
20 seconds.
I asked him how many times. Wes Coleman asked him how many times a week they were practicing, Brett.
Yeah.
He said, we call 6 practices, and if you don't commit to 5, then you can't be on the team.
Wow.
He's picking them up from school. He's got them in his facility.
Right.
Think about that. So a lot of communities that could pull that off if it was important to them.
Right. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Saturday Sports Countdown presented by JR Sports Bar and Grill and Sunshine Heating and Air. Final segment of the show here, so we don't have very much time. We only have about 3 minutes left in the show here this morning. So recap: Auburn and Alabama both in action in Nashville. Auburn will take on Tennessee at noon, and then Alabama and Florida will follow right after that. That's the Final Four. Tremendous Final Four team bracket there in Nashville. It's like a NCAA tournament Final Four. Next week, you and I will dive into some Auburn football. Spring football practice will start for Auburn. Alabama's already underway. So we'll hopefully get Luke back. And he shared a little bit about that last week on the show. Hopefully me and Faith and you and whoever is going to be able to start covering Auburn athletics more in depth with our Auburn Blitz programming. I had a great meeting with Kurt Sampson, and we've been officially added there to the distribution list. So we'll be getting the information so we can go and cover these press conferences and be at practice ourselves and be able to cover these events for everybody out there. So looking forward to that. Again, I want to thank Jason Caldwell, really a quasi member of our Auburn Blitz team, and just does such a great job of covering Auburn sports. To kind of give you an update there, Auburn baseball got a big win last night over Vanderbilt to get SEC play started. Softball lost in extra innings to the number 5 team, Texas A&M. So they've lost 5 in a row after getting a 20-1 start. So, reality.
Big win for Alabama last night, too. Alabama gets a win, opening SEC baseball game.
Right.
I was thinking, that it's great that our basketball programs are performing the way that they are, but it sure would be nice if our baseball would catch up with it. Well, they got off to great starts. I mean, if I were to tell you Auburn gets off to a start with a win over Vandy, and if you're an Alabama fan and they beat Texas A&M, which is one of the best programs in the country, too, we couldn't ask for much more, Brett. But let's hit real quickly on how you see both of these games playing out. Let's start with Auburn and Tennessee. Your hopes, I know that Auburn wins the basketball game. How does that happen?
You get some of these guys that haven't been contributing in the last 4 or 5 games start contributing again. I mean, in March, you got to have great guard play. That's the teams that win. I like Denver and Miles right now, and Tahad, the trio there. I think Auburn's great there. It doesn't matter which combination gets you over the hump every time you go on the floor. You just need to have a couple of those guys have good games. And then, of course, Janai Broome needs to be the player of the year. If Auburn's to win a national title, he needs to go on a run here. And what do we got to win? 8 games today, tomorrow. Again, you want to win them if you don't, but you want to win 6 in the NCAA tournament. And 6 means you're a national champion. And they need Janai Broome to be player of the year to do that. For Alabama and Florida, man, that is a straight coin toss for me. I don't know who's going to win this game. I think they're dead even. I think it's going to be a war. I'm not going to call that game. I'm not going to call the Auburn-Tennessee game because I just don't know. I think they're both going to be really good games.
I agree. I mean, I think whichever point guard plays the best. I think I lean towards Alabama in that one, though, Brett. Just because if Philon plays the way that he's playing right now to go along with Mark Sears, it's hard for me to find any tandem that's any better than those two.
All right, let's get off on TV. We got to get out before the TV audience. Again, want to thank everybody for watching and listening. We'll see you next week for the Saturday Sports Countdown. No, but continue on, yeah.
No, I was just saying, I mean, like Philon's the X Factor. And
he is the X Factor.
We need somebody to step up for us to be what LeBaron and Philon is giving.
Who is that going to be? It's got to be Chad Baker.
I think it'd be Miles Kelly too, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Miles Kelly at Kentucky going for 30. Because I think Philon's about to go for 18 a game on this next stretch. Somebody's got to give us 18 a game, and it has to come from somebody outside.
It ain't coming from Chaney Johnson.
No, I don't think so either.
It's not coming from him.
It can come from CBM or Miles Kelly.
Yeah, but it's going to have to be one. It's going to have to be one of those two.
So, and we need Dillon and Chaney to play better than they have been. But look, I'm saying something everybody knows.
That's right. Well, we're going to see here in a few hours. In 3 hours, we'll get it out there and we'll see.
Thanks
what
for
happens.
all the comments out there. By the way.
Been a lot of great comments today. Appreciate all of you as always. And all right, Randy, let's get out of here. We'll see everybody next week. Okay, man. See you.